Hi, welcome to South Build TV. My name is Ryan and I look to demystify the South Build process. In this episode, we're going to be talking to Tom, who is a specialist in MVHRs. We're going to be talking about MVHRs and why it's important to have a great design. So if that might be of interest to you, please watch on.
Welcome to Self Build TV. We look to demystify the self-build process so you can learn to build your dream home without risk and stress that other self-builders face. Now back to Ryan.
So welcome back. As I said in the introduction, I'm going to be talking to Tom from the Green Building Store, and we're going to be talking about MVHRs. So Tom, can you give us a little bit of introduction about yourself and a bit more about your company, please?
Yeah, so I'm into my 7th year at Green Building Store
Okay.
as MVHR Design Manager. My background is actually in architectural technology, which I did at university, and that's when I became interested in Passive House. Working as an architectural technician, I didn't really get the chance to use that interest. So I saw the opportunity to come up for MVHR designer and thought I'll take that one. Yeah. So we specialise in designing and supplying MVHR systems for high-end airtight, sometimes passive house buildings, and also commissioning them, setting them up so they work as they should do.
Excellent. Obviously Passive House is quite a good brand at the moment, and a lot of our viewers will be very interested to hear a little bit more about how MVHRs can help them along to achieve their sort of passive house. So I'm going to just quickly ask you, if you're new to the channel, please make sure you click on the link down below and subscribe so you don't miss out on any up and coming episodes. And how are we structuring these episodes? I'm going to ask Tom 5 questions, and then we're going to go on to his top 3 tips for self-builders. And then at the end, we're going to ask Tom how we can contact him or find any more information about his company. So Tom, what is a MVHR? Could you give a little bit of a background on what the actual acronym is and what's the main advantages of them?
Yeah, so MVHR is mechanical ventilation with heat recovery. So it will extract stale, moist, spent air from the building and take that through a ducting system back to the heat recovery unit. And there you bring fresh air in from outside. That fresh air recovers around 90% of the heat from the outgoing air. And that's then supplied to habitable rooms such as bedrooms, living rooms and studies. So that's preheated fresh air.
Yeah, I think what most people have been used to is what they call intermittent extract systems, where you have a fan in your bathroom that goes occasionally. And MVHR is that sort of level. It does that and also focus, as you said, bringing the fresh air into it. So it is what pretty much most new buildings are having, and I think that you said about the passive house as well, that they are putting it on. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about what actually makes a good design of an MVHR system. So what would be the top sort of what actually makes a good MVHR, and what makes a good design of an MVHR system?
Yeah. Well, firstly, the design is key. So, I mean, you can go online and buy an MVHR system and a ducting kit, $2,000, and stick that in your building. But no one's designed that. No one's checked the airflows. No one's checked the sound levels. So you need to engage someone in the early stages of the project to actually sit down and look at it in detail and design each room to each room. So it's important to an early stage to consider where these ducts are going to run, how they're going to get from A to B, C to D, how they're going to go around the building. So that early integration really is key.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've found in the past is that, like you said, making sure where they run is a lot of people in the construction industry. This might be the first project that they are using MVHR, and they haven't allowed the appropriate voids for it, or
Exactly.
and they'll always forget about the steel beams that have to go through the buildings as well. So it's
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we can usually design around that. We can usually avoid steel beams if necessary, avoid glulam beams, stair trimmers. But you need someone to look at that in detail and look how are you going to get around that.
I mean, I mean, one of the key downfalls, or one of the key sort of elements that people talk about MVHRs is that they're scared about putting it in because it's sometimes a bit noisy. Is there any sort of design things you'd actually do to try and reduce your noise? Or
Yeah, yeah, they do get really bad press for being noisy, and it's
yeah,
true that a lot of the time people have to turn them off at night, which is when you need the ventilation most, really, when there's two people in one
yeah,
room for 8 hours, not moving around. Um, so the key is asking your designer, can we model the sound levels? Can we check that the air valves in the rooms are going to be inaudible? So as designers, we would put silencers into the ducting system. We'd then check the sound levels in the rooms. If it's coming out too loud, we'll put bigger silencers on until it's inaudible. And obviously those silencers take up space, so it's important to get them in early and ensure that there's space to accommodate those. They are a key part of the system.
yeah. I mean, what people are it's people are scared about the ventilation units because they probably are a little bit, they know what a toilet extract sounds like, if that makes sense. And I think just to reassure our viewers is that we're on a completely different level of hopefully on a different level, completely different level of design and quality compared to a sort of £50 off the shelf sort of toilet extract fan. The noise, if you're, I mean, unfortunately, with noise, it is perceptive. If you look for it, you will find it, but it's the if done properly, like you said, if you put the right design behind it, you don't get that sort of noise level. And what's quite common is people undersize the MVHR units to cut costs. That increases the noise. It's kind of that sort of the running costs as well, and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly. People have even removed silencers in the past as a
yeah,
part of kind of cost saving exercise when it's like
yeah,
the silencer cost about £80, just keep it in there.
yeah. I mean, that's and again, going back to your first point about making sure that the routes are correct, it's the how important how the ducts get out of the unit as well. That makes a huge difference to the airflow and how much the fans need to work. Obviously, more resistance, the more you need to push against. So
Exactly.
it's a thing. That's what it's very important to get it designed rather than buy it off off eBay or equivalent
Yeah.
and install it yourself. So I wouldn't be surprised. So I mean, we're going on to let's say question 3, and we're going to talk a little bit about we talked a little bit about design, sort of basics of things. I mean, when you're starting to do your sort of design, when you're looking at a building, what are the sort of watch points? I mean, there's obviously physical, the unit, and then there's the stuff. But what would you? Is there a particular method you tend to look at?
Yeah, I mean, if let's say someone's sold on the idea that they need an MVHR system,
Yeah,
and they come to us for a quote, then yeah, we'd have a look over the drawings, and what we're looking for is how many units is going to need are necessary for the project. Typically in domestic, it's just one. You obviously get the other end of the scale. We have somewhere there's 2 or even 3 units, but usually it's just one. If there's a void in the middle of the building or a glass link, which are quite common, then sometimes you need to break down to two units unless they're happy with visible ducts through the glass link. So we just look for any key points, any concerns. If there are any, we'll raise them at an early stage with the client and just work around those and get them ironed out.
yeah. I mean, one of the key things I think is if you're going to put it to 2 is just highlighting where the units are, because they're not small, but they're not huge, if that makes sense.
Exactly, yeah. So we'll keep a lookout for plant space. If there's nowhere obvious where we can put the unit, or if there's a small utility room that we think they won't want it in there, then we'll raise that and make sure that there is somewhere we can get it, and let them know the size of the unit, because, like you say, people often think they're really small, but that's the cheap ones.
Yeah, unfortunately, the bigger the
Yeah,
better. But unfortunately, ironically, not ironically, but the annoying is that the bigger the better generally with MVHRs. It's just that you're giving up space, but it is. I personally believe that it's very important for a home because it's effectively it's the health of the home. Really, it's not just for energy. It's predominantly my motivation normally is to suggest it is to ensure that the space is healthy to live in. And you talked about it, people sleeping in a closed room for 8 hours. It's not healthy to do that if it's not done properly. So we've talked a little bit about the what MVHR is, what sort of key pinch points for our watch points as well. But we're going to move on to question 4, and that's normally when I ask a little bit about when a technology isn't appropriate. When would you not really recommend an MVHR to be installed?
I'd say if someone's trying to do a cheapest possible retrofit, not really focusing on air tightness or insulation values, if you put in trickle vents, for example, in windows, or if they're not removing old trickle vents, then MVHR might be overkill. You're probably better off looking at something like MEV, mechanical extract ventilation.
Yeah, can you just explain a little bit about the MEV? Is there a couple?
Yeah.
Just because our viewers are unlikely to know the difference really between MVHR and MEV.
Yeah, so MEV, you tend to have a unit in the loft with ducts going to each of the extract rooms. So just like your intermittent extractor that you have in your bathrooms traditionally, you'd have one of those, usually continuous and usually controlled by humidity levels or CO2 levels. That'd then ramp up the extract rate when it detects rising humidity, for example. And it'd also allow air to come in through trickle vents in windows or inlet vents through walls. It's about half the price. It's a lot less ducting. It's a lot less initial cost. Kind of the second best.
Yeah, I mean the biggest problem with MEV stuff is that you are introducing cold drafts into a home, and that's when we talk about MVHRs. It's a level of quality we're looking at, not saving money in terms of. You could make it cheaper, not as you say with an MEV system, but with underfloor heating, with modern homes, you want to try and reduce the amount of the difference in temperature within a building. So that's what it goes hand in hand as a overall design purpose things. But it is each, as you say, it's MVHR is useful if you're going for that higher level of quality and aesthetics as well. But particularly if it's as you said, it's if you have a much more leakier building. But yeah. So we're going to go on to sort of question 5, and so if you were a self builder or a person who wanted to start thinking about putting MVHRs into their building, and if what would be the sort of next step? I mean, for example, if they wanted to come to you to start the design process, what would they need to come with to help you get the ball rolling?
Yeah, I'd say a good time to think about contacting a designer for the MVHR system is probably once planning's been approved. So long as you've made sure that you've got room to accommodate the MVHR unit, you know roughly where it's going, then once planning's been approved, come to a designer with your drawings, ask for a quote, ask for any initial concerns, and then get in there early, get them to specify you rough ideas on duct sizes, so you know how deep your floor joist needs to be, plant space, all that. Get it in early, make sure you've got the room.
Yeah, kind of. It's quite a big common tip from a lot of our guests, and that is generally earlier the better. It's I think that's the gist of it. When you can make changes, it's best to get your ducks in a row as early as possible.
We get some people who come to us and say, "Oh, I'm just on site now. I'm building this house, and I've just thought I could fancy sticking an MVHR system in." It's a bit late, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, shoehorning a design into something, you're never going to get it as good as if it was started early on. As you say, it's a really good sort of thing. So now that really completes our sort of 5 questions. We're going to now move on to your top 3 tips that you have for self-builders, if that's okay.
Yeah, I'd say my first one is probably repeating myself, but as early as possible in the process.
Yeah.
Get an MVHR designer involved, and they need to be part of the design team, part of the main design team. They need to be speaking to the architects, the engineers from an early stage. So they're not missing key things out. Second one, I would say, is don't try and skimp and save on the MVHR system. If this goes in wrong, it's boxed away, it's behind plasterboarded ceilings, it's under floors, it's built into walls. If it goes wrong and you need to replace it, it's a lot of money. Maybe make a saving on your kitchen or on your furniture. Spend that money on getting the systems correct in the first place. And then we should last you the lifetime of the building.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one thing in your house that'll affect the health of the home as much as anything else, really. It's just that one, it could make a huge difference between called a healthy home or a non-healthy home, if that makes sense.
That's it. Yeah. People spend so much money building the dream homes, and then they'll try and save money on what's making that home healthy and looking after that, as well as the occupants. It's all about the occupants' health as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. So can we go on to your last tip that you have for self-builders?
Yeah, the last tip would be ensure that the person installing the system, if it's not the self-builder themselves, ensure that they're sticking to the designs that the designer has done. They're not going kind of rogue and sticking ducts and things everywhere. The design is very precise, and sometimes bends are added in on purpose. If contractors then start trying to take shortcuts, that's when problems arise. So inform the designer of any changes that you're making on site, so they can let you know if that's a suitable change.
Yeah, I think I might add one last tip, and that goes on top of that, is install it correctly, and then also make sure you get it commissioned correctly as well. And and maybe if you're still umming and ahhing about it, go back to the designer and make sure that you want to make sure it has been installed how it's been designed. That's where a lot of MVHRs had a lot of bad press, is because it's been designed correctly, it's been installed, but then it's rushed its commissioning stage, and then the whole house is using too much energy, or it's not getting enough fresh air. So it's important to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it's designed well, then great, it's going to work well. But for it to work well, it does need setting up to work as it's been designed to. Which a lot of people miss out, and it's another cost. We try not to do it, but it really is key.
Yeah, I mean, we do working in the construction industry where it relies on a lot of people passing off things to make sure, and then they make sure the end result works. It's making sure that they actually do what they've been asked to do, if that makes sense, and hopefully you'll get a much better result over it. Thank you for your tips, and thank you for your 5 questions today. If someone wants to get hold of you or find a little bit more about your company, what would be the best way to get in contact?
Yeah, there's plenty of information on our website. You can go to there. That's www.greenbuildingstore.co.uk. Or you can just get in touch with us directly. Just give us a call, ask to speak to the MVHR team, or drop us an email, mvhrinquiries@greenbuildingstore.co.uk. And we're always happy to chat, even if you just want to know a bit more about MVHR.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean that's why I reiterate with a lot of self-builders, that a lot of people in the construction industry are very passionate about what they do, and they want to help you. And if you have any questions, most people will be more than happy to take a phone call from you, even if it's just you picking their brains, because they want to make sure that you get the right result at the end of the day. It is an industry that is very helpful, and it's not huge. But it's a good industry where people are very happy to help. And I will reiterate that if you have any questions for myself or Tom, always feel free to pass them to me. I'll pass them over to Tom. If we can help, we'll be able to. If not, at least we'll be able to point you guys in the right direction. And thanks, Tom, for your time today. It's been very much appreciated, and I hope our audience appreciated it as well. Again, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please click on the link down below so you don't miss out on any up-and-coming episodes. And thank you for taking the time to check out this episode, and I hope to be coming along on your self-build journey.
Thank you for checking out Self-Build TV. Don't miss out on the Self-Build Made Easy Starter Pack, and go to www.selfbuild.tv now to order your free copy to start your self-build journey. You will also get access to a community, exclusive content, and free expert advice. Go to selfbuild.tv now.